Good morning, class. Today we are going to start with the next part of your chapter 5, pronoun and the kinds of pronoun. Okay? So, I welcome you back. At first, let us do a brief revision about the chapter. In the earlier class, we discussed about the kinds of pronoun, what is pronoun and their various kinds. We had discussed about that there are 9 kinds of pronoun, that is personal pronoun, possessive pronoun, reflexive, emphatic, interrogative, demonstrative, indefinite, distributive and relative pronouns. Okay, so we have discussed about personal pronoun and possessive pronoun. We have discussed about personal and possessive pronoun, and today we will be discussing from reflexive pronoun, from your reflexive pronoun. See what reflexive pronoun is. Reflexive pronoun, to show that an action done by the subject is reflected or turned back to the doer, we use reflexive pronoun. Reflexive pronoun is used to say that a work had been done by the subject and is reflecting back upon the subject. Means the work is done by the subject on the subject itself. The work is done by the subject on the subject himself. For example, see, I have done the homework myself. I have done the homework myself means this subject doing the work, this is the work done and this is being reflected on the subject. To show that an action done by the subject, this is the action done by whom? By the subject, is reflected or turned back to the doer, is reflected back on the doer, reflected back on the doer or the subject. Okay, so reflexive pronoun is used to show that an action done by the subject is reflected or turned back to the doer. We use reflexive pronoun. Subject I doing the work, reflecting upon myself. Okay, I have done the work myself. So in reflexive pronoun, you will be using pronoun related to self. For example, myself, ourselves, yourself, yourselves, himself, herself, itself, themselves. For example, he solved his problem himself. He is the subject. Solving the problem means your action. Himself, turning back on the doer. Turning back on the doer. She blamed herself for the mistake. She blamed herself for the mistake. She, subject, blamed is the work, herself reflecting back. She locked herself in the room. She locked herself in the room. She is the subject when I am saying she locked herself in the room. She, subject, lock is the action, herself reflecting back upon the doer. Okay, so see, the words myself, yourself, ourself, I had already told you earlier. Himself, herself, themselves are the example of reflexive pronoun. They are so called because they substitute for nouns and action reflects back upon the subject. See, the action is reflecting back upon the subject. In other words, the action of the verb returns to the doer. Action is done back on the doer. The action is done by the doer and it is done on the doer. Okay. So this is your reflexive pronoun when the action is done by the doer and on the doer. The verb is done by the doer, is acted upon the doer. Next, see. Next is your emphatic pronoun. Okay. What is emphatic pronoun? Emphatic pronoun, a pronoun used for conveying emphasis is called emphatic pronoun. So, first and foremost, what is emphasis? What is emphasis? Emphasis means stress. Emphasis means stress. So A pronoun that is used to put a stress. Pronoun used to put a stress. See, the self pronoun serve another purpose too. Means emphatic pronoun also use your self pronoun. Your reflexive pronoun also uses self pronoun, and your emphatic pronoun also uses the self pronoun. They can be used for putting emphasis on subjects or object. They can be used for putting stress, putting emphasis or stress on subjects and objects. Okay. The principal himself spoke to me. Emphasis on the subject. Here the subject is principal, object is me. So the principal himself spoke to me. In this case, the stress is put on the principal. Okay. I met the officer himself. I met the officer himself. I is the subject, officer is the object. So here emphasis is done on the object. So in emphatic pronoun there will be two kind of emphasis. One emphasis can be put on subject and the other emphasis can be put on the object. Okay. The self pronoun are called emphatic pronoun when they are used for emphasizing subject and object. So now your question will be arising how to differentiate between reflexive pronoun and emphatic pronoun, because your emphatic pronoun and your reflexive pronoun both are using self pronouns. See, himself in emphatic pronoun, himself in reflexive pronoun. Both the pronouns are using your self pronoun. But how to differentiate which one is reflexive and which one is emphatic? So for this, come to the next portion. How will you understand? How will you differentiate between both kinds of both the pronoun? See, we notice that reflexive pronoun and emphasizing pronoun are identical in form, are very similar. Then how do we find out whether a pronoun has been used as a reflexive pronoun or an emphatic pronoun? So how do we understand which one is reflexive and which one is reflexive and which one is emphatic? Now see how. A reflexive pronoun answered the question whom. Reflexive pronoun means where the action is done by the doer and upon the doer. Done by the doer and upon the doer. Answer the question whom. An emphatic pronoun lends emphasis. And what an emphatic pronoun does? Emphatic pronoun put stress. It asks the question whom. It put stress. See, here is an example. I blamed myself for failure. And here I myself locked it. These two are the difference between emphatic pronoun and between reflexive pronoun. This is your reflexive. This is your emphatic. How? I blamed myself for my failure. I subject blamed. Work done on myself. Reflexive. Work done by the doer on the doer. Okay. Emphasis putting stress. Who logged it? I myself logged it. Who logged it? I myself logged it. It is answering the question. Reflexive answers the question whom. It is answering the question who. Okay. I blamed myself. Whom did I blame? Myself. Reflexive pronoun. Who locked? Myself. Okay. So reflexive pronoun answers the question whom and emphatic pronoun answers the question who. Okay. This is the difference between your emphatic pronoun and your reflexive pronoun. Clear? So I want you guys to read it yourself and understand the difference between emphatic and reflexive pronoun. And in your next class, I will be going through your interrogative pronoun and your demonstrative, distributive and indefinite pronouns. Okay. So till then, stay at home, stay safe and do revise, do read your chapters.